assistant director of the Oregon Screams Horror Film Festival, the fall 2022 season of which is going to screen on Saturday, October 22nd at the Sunshine Mill Winery and Drive-In Theater in the Dalles, Oregon. So yes, for all you classic horror fans, we are going to have a retro drive-in experience with these great horror films and horror shorts, one of which is Remnants. I just want to thank Chris Boyd here for being with me today. Chris, you are the writer and director of Remnants.
That's correct. Yeah, thank you very much for having me tonight and for having the film's trailer, which is going to be playing. And I'm really excited for that to be a drive-in as something. I mean, we don't have it too much here in the UK, but I've grown up watching horror films and just films from the US, really. And the drive-in experience is something that it'd be really cool to see. The trailer screen there. So thank you again.
Well, thank you. And so tell me, what is Remnants about?
So Remnants is a short horror film which channels ghost stories and folk horror and modern gothic into a story that deals with kind of toxic masculinity and Brexit and the UK's frankly shameful outlook on immigration into something we hope is quite thought-provoking, and it's a horror film, so we hope it's scary. It follows a lecturer played by the really great Simon Weir, Glaswegian actor, who in classic sort of ghost story style is trying to deal with some stuff in his past, which has kind of come back to haunt him. So, we shot this last year now in the Peak District, which is a beautiful national park in the middle of the UK. We shot it all outdoors, so we were kind of battling the rain and images. And,
totally.
Spoiler alert, Simon has to get into the water at one point. So, he was a great sport. He was very Glaswegian about it and didn't make too much of didn't complain too much. But it was great. And, you yourself, what filmmaking's like, and certainly short filmmaking and low budget short filmmaking, everybody had to kind of pitch in together.
Right.
And we funded this through a crowdfunding scheme, Greenlit, which is great. And they were really supportive, and we had about 100 supporters in the end who kind of backed the project. So I'm really pleased that it's getting out there, and that festivals like yourself are picking it up, and we can kind of screen it to people, because that's what it's about, really. It doesn't exist in a vacuum, and we can all sort of wring our hands together and read the newspapers and not be grumble to ourselves around a dinner table. But unless people maybe you don't agree with you see the film from different viewpoints, see the film, and I hope it changes some people's opinions.
Awesome. Well, it's a great premise, and it's very cool that you're combining something that is topical and political, and has some social commentary, but with the relatable and desirable format of the horror short. What inspired you to do this?
Well, it was a couple of things. I think I mentioned Brexit there, and that was such a shock.
Right.
I'm talking from my own point of view, of course, as a sort of left winger, and I was living in London at the time, and I was sat on a bus, and we were it was the day after when we were all sort of just looking at each other going, almost sort of like, did you do this? Did you do this? It can't have been us living in this sort of, metropolitan bubble, because I never really considered myself as English, really. I sort of, or British. I always kind of consider myself as a European. So I wanted to have a sort of, I wanted to deal with that in my own kind of way. And then, as I've mentioned, the kind of UK's outlook on immigration has been woeful in the last couple of years. So I wanted to write something about those things. But also the kind of thing that kicked it off was I heard this story about the village of Ashopton and Derwent, which were in the 1930s and 40s in the Peak District. There were these little villages which got evacuated over a couple of months to make way for a reservoir. But they didn't bulldoze, they didn't knock those villages down. They just left them there totally intact. And then they put the water in. So occasionally, when the water goes up and down, over the last couple of years, you've been able to see this church spire, from the
Wow.
old church and some of the
Yeah.
old buildings. And there's a story going around that people occasionally hear the ghostly bells of this church spire go around, which I thought was such an interesting idea. So, this idea of like a home and a disappearing home I just thought was a really fantastic metaphor for what we were all going through, and
Right.
this immigration crisis and Brexit, and I kind of I also wanted to write something which was a ghost story, and I've been obsessed with horror films and M.R. James and those old kind of Nigel Neal TV shows from the 60s and 70s, like Beasts and the Quatermass Experiments, and something that really
Totally.
kind of drilled down into kind of a creeping dread, and I hope we've accomplished that in the film as well. But it was a couple of things that sort of sparked in my brain to try to be able to do that in a 10-minute period. I thought would be interesting to do. Yeah,
Absolutely. Well, and it's interesting that you had this starting off point that was a very personal experience, a personal feeling that you've had experiencing Brexit. What's the process writing a story from such an intimate point of view? What is that like?
well, I guess any writer goes into it thinking that's what you're taught, isn't it? Write about what you know, and I can only kind of I tried to write from my own experience of angst. But one of the characters is in the film is a identifies as Mena, and the actress who plays her, she's part Egyptian, and so she kind of brought her own experiences and her family's experiences to it, and I thought that was obviously really important as well, to sort of sense check that. And I did a lot of research into I did far too much research, because I'm obviously I realize I'm a white middle class liberal man, and writing a story about immigration is I needed to do my research there
Totally.
to make sure it was truthful. So I wanted to make sure that was all on screen. But I guess it's just getting it in front of people and getting the script read by people, and just making sure it felt truthful to everybody, because I could only really speak from my experience and the experience of people around me. And I mean, that was the thing. It was like we were just in this. I was just in this bubble, the Brexit thing. We were all just in this Twitter bubble where we're like, we're all right, it's fine, we're all
Right.
getting on here. And then you realize there's the rest of the country, and I'm not from London. I'm speaking to you now from Edinburgh, and I'm originally from Sheffield, Chesterfield area, just outside Sheffield, which is kind of the middle of the country. But there's a kind of whole lost section of society which aren't on social media, and aren't engaging with politics like that, or aren't on on your sort of not wavelengths, the wrong word, but it just kind of stirred up all that, and I felt like it was such a kind of toxic place to live in at the time. And I mean, it still is. I mean, I live in Scotland now, and Scotland's got its own issues, but just to I sort of get out of England in a way.
Totally.
But it's. I just felt like having the politicians were kind of using those sort of fractious, those sort of lines that have opened up in society over the years, and well, we know we have. They use them to their own kind of political gains, and I just felt kind of sort of sickened by that, and that sort of felt like. You hear this term elevated horror a lot, which I absolutely hate. I can't stand it. Because it's as if like horror filmmakers aren't writing films which deal with society issues since day dot. It's always been like that. But being able to kind of deal with issues like that in a kind of in a genre way, I thought was kind of interesting. interesting way to approach it.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it's like you mentioned, you're tapping into the fact that all horror really is sort of responding to society, and then you're instilling this bit that's maybe a lot more frontal. I kind of want to know. So, in your production process, you brought a bit of yourself. You said your actors and your actresses were bringing a bit of themselves in. What did you learn from this experience?
Well, I learned that you could kind of plan it, but when you're actually there, it's, you've got to roll with what's going on.
Mm,
You could kind of, there's no, it was all an outdoor shoot, so there's no accounting for the
right.
weather. And what, I got the first edit back, and I was totally horrified. I was like, well, this is not what I've written, and I'd been involved with it every single step of the way, but it came back, and I was like, this is really dreadful. It's like, it's really on the nose, and
Mm,
it's just, I wasn't getting Simon's performance in it, and it just felt too kind of overwrought and not scary, and just
mm,
like wistful and just wishy-washy. And obviously 20 edit drafts later, it's like we fashioned it into something that we're all really proud of. But there's I think just working with people, different people, uh, and bringing my own experiences to it, and listening to other people and having their experience. I mean, our DP is incredible. Darshan, he's fantastic. He's working on a project for Sky at the minute, and just having his eye on the whole
hmm
thing was just, beyond what I could have imagined, really. And I guess like learning to sort of let go a bit as well, and not be too dictatorial, because
mm,
the last two films I'd made were documentaries, and again they were about sort of community, uh, and I'd done everything on those, apart from shooting and recording the sound. I'd
hmm
edited it. I'd kind of produced them in a way, so kind of being able to sort of stand back a bit, and because it's no fun for anybody else then if you go and it's got to be exactly like this, it's got to be like this, and it's, people are getting paid, it's a job, but there's no creativity with them then if I'm sort of breathing down the neck,
right.
and saying I want it definitely like this, because then you just end up regurgitating stuff. I mentioned Emma and James, and
hmm
those and all those great sort of folk horror that I grew up watching, but it's I didn't want to do the same thing again. I wanted
Right.
something infused by that, but not, it's got to be something that's a collection of ideas coming together to create something new. And I think we got there in the end, but definitely a kind of mixture of plowing ahead and being the kind of bus driver on it, but also letting go a bit, and trusting the people you've kind of brought together to deliver the project. Yeah.
Oh, totally. I mean, it seems like you took a lot out of this, and it's actually very enlightening to know how much the edit can change the feel of the film.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like I've actually done another edit since, and I don't think
Oh.
people have seen it, because there was a lot more dialogue in there, which I
Mm,
just thought was saying, which I think people can get, and you just don't want to. I wanted it to be not vague, but I wanted to be an air of mystery to it without kind of like spoon feeding people. And there's nothing worse than kind of sat there going, "Yeah, I get it."
right.
The audience are already 5 steps ahead of you,
No,
so
totally.
just kind of pull. I've just removed things in a way. I didn't really add anything on, so it was, the original edit was like 16 minutes, and now it's 10 minutes, 11 or something. So we pulled a lot out, a lot of different scenes. Um, a lot of scenes where even on the set on one of the days,
hmm
uh, there was this kind of element of one of the characters sort of leaving a sort of bread trail, metaphoric bread trail for one of the other characters, and it looked like Darshan goes, "Is this just like a film about a ghost littering?" And I was like, "Maybe it is, man. So we should probably pull out some of that in the edit." So I did in the end, and it's because it's sort of fine line between horror and comedy, isn't there? So
Right. Absolutely.
it's too comical. But yeah, I think that, and also just meeting people along the way. Being involved in these film festivals. Even online, it's
hmm
great that kind of film festivals embracing that, because not everybody who wants to get to the festival can get to the festival. So
Right.
having this content online as well is great for people to engage with. So I've just met some great people, and stuff that's I hope I've helped other people, and when they share their ideas with me, and people have definitely helped me when they've listened to my ideas, and we've collaborated. So it's exciting. I think it's exciting time for filmmaking in the UK anyway, and definitely short filmmaking. And it's always difficult finding funding, but I think there are more funding bodies in the UK now, and people sort of see it as an art form in its own right, and not just kind of a stepping stone to making a feature. Which is really nice. And you've got awards bodies like BIFA and BAFTA, and of course Oscar and people like that, who really embrace the short filmmaking as a form. So yeah.
Well, that's excellent. It's the heyday of the short film, just like the short story got its time in the sun.
Exactly, and I think you guys do it a lot. Well, do short story writing a lot better than us anyway. But those old Raymond Carver stories are fantastic, aren't they? And Shirley Jackson stories
totally
are just really wonderful, and have always been embraced as something that it's not like, oh, it's lesser than a bigger project, and it's not at all.
Well, it's an exciting time for shorts productions, and I want to know, do you have any other short work in the works, or do you have any other features coming?
Yeah, well, been working on a script for a while, which is it's kind of a love story set in an elderly care home, actually.
Interesting.
And I've been working on that for a while, and then the sort of pandemic hit, and then I didn't really want it to end up becoming something about that, but it's sort of inevitable to have to deal with those issues. But it's there's genre elements of that as well, and I think there always will be in everything I write, because I'm such a big fan of the genre, and I'm always excited to see what new horror filmmakers are doing. Really excited about Megalomaniac and Barbarian, and Piggy, that film coming out, and I've not had a chance to see Halloween Ends yet. And I'm a Halloween apologist, so
nice.
I'm a big David Gordon Green fan, and I'm like, he knows what he's doing. Come on, just give him the benefit of the doubt. Just there's good stuff in there. Let's just
totally.
Let's just highlight that. So yeah, it's good. It's good to keep working and keep collaborating with people, and I'm excited to see where that goes. Yeah,
well, that's awesome. I want to know, is there any other stuff you'd like to add about The Remnant?
Well, we're hoping we've got a couple more festival appearances and screenings coming up. We're hopefully doing hometown Sheffield screening in the end of November, and then I'm hoping the film's going to go out online before Christmas, so we can do it as a sort of old ghost story for Christmas.
Awesome.
In a way. So yeah, I'm just excited for people to see it, and your audience to see it as well. And
totally.
I hope you guys might. I'm unfortunately not going to be able to make it over, but I know a lot of people in Oregon and Portland who are coming to the festival, so I'm excited to see what they think about it.
Absolutely. Well, we'll definitely document that, and no, I think it's going to work very well on the drive-in screen. I think it's kind of a perfect movie for that setting.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for having us.
Yes, thank you. Well, thank you so much for talking to me, and I look forward to seeing a lot more work from you in the coming years.
Brilliant. Thanks, man. And thanks to everybody there.
Awesome. See ya.